Hi ladies, I'm Rebecca, the founder of the Female Entrepreneurs Network, and welcome to the show. Here you're going to find badass human beings, creatives, adventurous people and massive action takers. If you need any more support or love, head over to the femaleentrepreneursnetwork.com to find everything that you could ever possibly need. Always remember to speak your truth, be who you are, because you are always enough. And there is someone out there who needs to hear your message today. Enjoy this episode, and if you love us, share us with your mates. I love you all. Rebecca.
Welcome, Faye Edwards, the confidence coach. So Faye, you have the Business Confidence Club, but look, I'm going to let you take over and tell us what you do.
Absolutely. I'm Faye Edwards, the confidence coach, and I run a club called the Business Confidence Club. Just a bit about me in general. I have a place in Cornwall, a bricks and mortar business, which is called Tresaron Cottages, which is at the Woodland in Cornwall. It's a holiday and retreat business, and we've been here for 3.5 years. And I've built it up from nothing with my husband into an amazingly successful business. And it's been an amazing journey. But the most important part was how much I've learned about myself. We had a bit of a rocky ride at one point, and very nearly everything went pear-shaped. We did a risky financing decision, which sometimes you have to do. Buying a place that's 8 acres in the woods with 6 cottages is not a small venture. And we already had a property business, and so we leveraged one of our properties to be able to buy here and do lots of the work. And it was a risky decision, and it went wrong. And so suddenly I was faced with on the verge of losing a £500,000 property. And we didn't, thankfully. We clawed it back, but it absolutely shook me to the core. And I've always been blessed with being a fairly confident person. I've been a radio presenter for the past 6 years. I've never, thankfully, and I thank my lucky stars that I haven't had confidence issues. But this particular, what happened in that moment made me doubt everything. It made me really not, wonder where I was coming from, and made me realize that I was going to have to really work on the basis of who I was and what it was based on, because it wasn't actually as stable as I thought it was originally. And it's where I came across really self-development. I was 38 at the time and really had no concept of self-development. I worked in Westminster and in London for 14 years and happily went along, did my career, worked hard, was very successful. And self-development just wasn't a part of that, really. I did yoga for relaxation and stretching, but that was it. And so when I then started going into entrepreneurial groups, I came across so much that said, think about, what do other entrepreneurs do? How do they structure their day? What do they say they rely on? And every single person said the most important part of your business is you. And of course, it's so simple, and it's the most important thing in our daily life, never mind our business, is ourselves. And yet we can go years and years completely neglecting to do any work on who we are and what we're about. So having done all this, and obviously I got over the financial issue, we invested into our business and we've made it a brilliant success. The one thing I was missing was networking, was buzzing off other people. When what it's like when you've got your own business. Some days you spend days on end at your computer, just you and your cup of tea and maybe the dog. And I really I went on a couple of courses. One was a content marketing course, and I met some other women, and just even chatting in the lunch break and the coffee break, I went, oh, this is it. This is that thing that I have been craving, that thing that I don't have, grounding me and being a part of on a weekly basis or a monthly basis, any kind of regular occurrence.
People, yeah.
So I set up the Female Business Networking Group Cornwall. Catchy name, I know, but it definitely says what it is. And it's just been the most amazing success from the very first meeting. The people who attended came away saying, oh my God, I got home and I did this, 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 and this, my action list, I smashed through it. I had all these goals that I had been putting off, I've been procrastinating. And it was so inspiring, really amazing. And, you know, that's been going for a really long time now. But on the back of that, I had a couple of the people in the group approach me and say, my business isn't really doing what I need it to do. And most of them, excuse me, really were wanting to leave a job, a 9-to-5 job, and rely on their business and their passion, but just didn't know how to make the leap. And they said, can you help me? You know, is there anything you can do? You know, every week we leave, every month we leave so inspired. Can you help me work out? And I suddenly realized when you're working on somebody else's business, it is so easy to say, right, how much do you want to make a week? How much do you want to make a month? How many of your things do you need to sell? What's your profit margin? There we go. We have a plan. And now here's the outlets. And when you've got that step back, it's so simple. But also the thing that I noticed in all of these women, and they all are women, that wasn't really a plan, it's just how it came about, is that they totally lacked self-confidence. It wasn't confidence in their product or their business at all. It was in themselves. And along with that then comes a lack of self-worth. The money mindsets were all over the place. You know, people just didn't have any value in themselves. And if you don't have value in yourself, then you're not going to value your own product when it's out in the marketplace. Yeah. And so I started then working with the group, saying, right, this week we've got a 5-day confidence challenge, and it was totally about the person. It wasn't about their product. It was about, you know, I want you to do positive self-talk. I want you to hydrate. I want you to move for half an hour. You know, all those things that when you know you need to do them, you know how vital they are. But until somebody is actually making you accountable and saying, look, you do this from Monday to Friday and you're going to feel flipping amazing on Friday, and you can do that every week, then you've got that in your armory, in your tool of, you know, your toolbox of things that you rely on. And so that's where the business has grown out of, really, just them being contacted by so many people. And obviously all of my contacts at that time were local, because I'd set up this group, so they were all in Cornwall. And so I was seeing them on a one-to-one basis, and then I ended up with no time, because I was seeing every single one of them and doing, you know, coaching and planning and strategy. And then I was like, oh, I have actually got no time. And then I had loads more people saying, can I work with you? Which is when I went, actually, you know, it's so simple to move this online, and then I can work with as many people who want to work with me. I'm not limited to the people who can get here and see me.
That is so amazing and so inspiring. And it, you know, like, I'm nodding as you go, because I'm like, this is so familiar, because it seems as though we've been on such a similar path. And it's crazy, isn't it, like how we can hold ourselves back from achieving the things that we want to achieve because of lack of self-belief. And one of the things that I acknowledged and I realised on this journey, which was quite similar to yours, is that sometimes you don't even know that you've got that lack of self-confidence or lack of self-belief. Sometimes it literally just feels like an energy block, or like something in front of you that you can't just get past. And I think that's so important to make people realise, because when I struggled with this, when I said this, I mean like with moving my business forward and having a clear plan. In my last business, I used to tell myself that I could do anything that I want, but then I still had this barrier or something in front of me that I just could not move past. And I definitely would have said that was down to lack of self-belief and a limiting belief of I'm not good enough and I'm not worthy. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's really, really poignant what you said there, because just because you can walk into a room full of people and go, hi, I'm Faye Edwards, welcome, it's amazing to have you here, or to go on the radio, doesn't mean you've got self-belief. It doesn't mean that you value yourself and that you have self-worth. It means that you're an extrovert, but not necessarily. That confidence is so much more complex than being able to speak to a room full of people, a radio microphone, or, you know, do a Facebook Live. And it's really important to really start to work on those inner parts of yourself, because if you don't, it gets worse and worse. And so the person you are, the person who does all this amazing public speaking and everything else, is further away from the person within, who is, who doesn't have exactly that. I'm not good enough. Why should I set this up? Because I don't think it's going to work. And what will people think of me if I stop? Who am I to be this person?
Yeah, that was a big one of mine.
Yeah.
Who am I to do this? Who am I to do that?
And then, from my perspective, I followed you for a good couple of years, and you're amazing. Everybody thinks you are, and so many people have found real inspiration and motivation in your work. But it doesn't ever stop that. Who am I to be doing this? Is it really okay for me?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I recently read an article in Marie Claire about JLo, and she was saying fame does not give you self-worth. Like, the whole article was around how even becoming famous and doing all the inspiring things that she does. I mean, JLo, like, she's a top actress, she's multi-billionaire, isn't she? Like, she's incredible. But she was saying, like, even at her highest high, that's not what gave her the self-worth. What gave her the self-worth was when she had a conversation with Louise Hay and realised that it was within, that, she had to find it from within, and not externally. That was really inspiring to view.
It is, and the other thing is, you can't just do it once and go, da-da, done it, self-worth, it's all fine now. It is an absolute ongoing. And Louise Hay is such an amazing example of that. Every single morning to wake up and look in the mirror and say, you're amazing, I love you, let's smash this day. She knew that you couldn't just do it once and then it's all fine. And if you have, therapy or counselling, that's all part of the process. But it still needs to be. Another amazing example is someone like Oprah. She's been so open with her own self-worth struggles. She was one of the most famous women in the world, absolutely loved and adored by everybody, and she still didn't love herself. She still struggled all the time with her own self-worth. And so that's a really important thing to recognize. It's an ongoing project, but as soon as you get there, it's absolutely liberating. And I feel like I'm getting to know myself all over again. It's when I
rediscover.
Yeah, exactly. When I first discovered everything from meditation to acknowledging and value, I was, like I said, in my late 30s. And my first thought was, oh my God, why have I waited until now? I'm gutted that I didn't do this when I was 18. Imagine how different things could have been. But and on the other hand, somehow I read Shakti Gawain, Creative Visualization, when I was 18. I've no idea. I still own the same copy. I've no idea where it came from. And I read it, and creative visualization is, exactly that. And I read it and I kind of went, oh, bless, if only that were true. And put it on the shelf and carried on, going to work and doing my degree and all those things which were incredibly important, because if I hadn't done them, I wouldn't be who I am now. And that's part of the realization as well, that there's no point in me saying, I wish I'd done it 20 years ago, because I wasn't in the right place. You have to be in the right place, otherwise it is water off a duck's back, and it doesn't resonate, does it?
Yeah, completely. Oh, I love this conversation. Okay, let's go back then to your story and what you were saying about you. So you had this business, you've still got this business, this retreat club, holiday and retreat club.
Holiday and retreat location. It's cottages in the woods. So we bought them. We came to see them in the February 2015, and we lived in London at the time and didn't really have any plan of moving to the middle of nowhere in Cornwall. We had a property development company and had renovated 3 properties by then. This is me and my husband together. Our children were 2 and 4 at the time, and saw this property online and went, oh my God, it looks amazing. It looks like paradise. We drove here the day before. It took us 9 hours from London in the pouring rain. We were absolutely exhausted. The directions we weren't staying here, we were staying in another holiday cottage. The directions were awful. There was no GPS, no sat nav, no phone signal, and we were so terrified that we couldn't even talk to each other. We literally were sitting there in this terrified silence. thankfully managed to get a little bit of phone signal, called the owners of the cottage. They directed us in by waving a torch so we could follow the torchlight. And I remember sending a text to my dad that night saying, this puts a new perspective on the back of beyond. Like, we were so traumatized. Then woke up the next morning, opened the curtains and went, oh my God, this is heaven. You know, in daylight, it was just amazing. There were deer wandering through the field and the owls and the woodpeckers. So as we drove up the driveway here, we just fell in love, both of us. We knew instantly that it was paradise. And it was totally run down, neglected, really shabby. It wasn't fit for guests at all. And unfortunately, the previous owner had just let it go, and had done no, you know, like any business, you have to reinvest. You have to reinvest, and maintain. And when you don't, it you know, it doesn't work. And so we it had been on the market for 4 years, and there have been people constantly looking around, but the amount of work necessary had just put everybody else off, alongside of the fact that it's got 8 acres of forest. And forest management is flipping hard work and really flipping expensive as well, which we kind of didn't factor in. But no, we just fell in love completely, and we knew we had to do whatever we could do to buy it, but also it needed to be back with people. It needed to be homes again. People needed to live and breathe. The buildings themselves needed to live and breathe, because they were built in the 1850s as part of a tin and silver mine. It's a really world famous mining site. And so they have so much character and energy. The entire ground here is made of quartz. So there's crystals everywhere you go. Yeah. So the energy coming through is absolutely incredible. So we moved in the July, bought it in the December. It's not a simple process buying this kind of place. And then spent the next 7 months full on renovation. So all the cottages, we did new roofs, new windows, new kitchens, new plumbing, electrics, absolutely everything. And then we opened the following summer. And it's incredible. The first people who came that summer have been back twice a year ever since. And now, 9 times out of 10, people arrive in the car park and go, oh, when can I book for next year? Before they've even gone inside, they just get the feeling and the energy of the place. But it took me a while to learn as well that I was just promoting us originally as they are lovely holiday cottages, and actually we're not like other holiday cottages. You know, in Cornwall there are hundreds of thousands of holiday cottages, and some of them are a regular bungalow by the sea, some are new build houses. And so what I realized was I had to really niche down who we appealed to, because we don't appeal to everybody. Some people get here and go, no phone signal, I can't walk to a shop or a pub. And I'm like, no, that's kind of the whole point. There's deer walking through over there, there's owls, and there's toads hopping around. And so that made me realize that was a big lesson for me. Saying that, everybody who did get here and go, oh, there's no phone signal, fell in love after a while. Apart from there was this one couple who arrived and was so traumatized by the lanes that they said, oh, we can't stay here. And they went to find somewhere in a local town, bless them. And they later sent me an email saying something like, I'm really sorry, I love my Range Rover more than I love my wife. And I was like, okay, you're really not our ideal client. Thank you.
Oh God, that's so bad, isn't it? Okay, so talk to me then about because you said it got quite bad at one point, and like you were on rocky road and you wanted to know how it was going to pan out. Like, what was it that kept you through? Like, what was it that gave you hope even through the hardest times?
That's something that I've really had to dig down in myself to find. So yeah, like I said, we took financial advice. We'd had the same financial advisor for 15 years. We did property development, so we were forever having mortgages, other financial products, and we had to leverage against one of our other rental properties to buy here, and it was supposed to be a short-term leverage. And Brexit happened basically in that time, and so as it happened, the product we were about to replace this short-term finance with was taken off the market. All that day, the day after Brexit, nearly all buy-to-let or commercial mortgage lending was instantly whipped off the table because nobody knew what was going to happen. And so we'd been relying on going, you know, just another mortgage. Like I said, we've got loads. Yeah, we'll sign the papers the next day. And the next day that wasn't there. And then the day after it wasn't there. And it wasn't being replaced by anything. So suddenly this short-term, very expensive leveraging that we'd done was going on and on. And the stress was horrendous. I kind of lost the ability to laugh, you know. And I wasn't experienced enough, and I didn't know myself enough to know that whatever happened, it was going to be okay. You know, if we had lost it, it would still be okay. But in the middle of it, at the time, I wasn't self-aware enough to be able to take a step back and look at the situation from above and go, it'll all be okay. I felt like I'd let my family down, my children down, my husband. You know, I felt like I'd made the wrong choices. Right at the very last minute, it worked out fine, and we got an okay product. It wasn't the one that we were working for, but it meant that we didn't lose the property that was at stake. But in that time, I hadn't treated myself very well, and so the only thing I knew how to do was go, I'm so stressed, I'll have a glass of wine, I'll eat loads of food, you know. And so I ended up self-medicating by drinking far too much and eating far too much. And then you know, I thought, oh, that'll make me feel better. It really only made me feel worse, a lot worse. And then my self-worth went through the floor because I was, you know, uncomfortable with the size that I was. And, you know, I wasn't exercising because I wasn't comfortable exercising. And I was tired all the time because I'd been drinking too much wine, because I thought that made it feel better. And that was when I said, there has to be something else. There has to be another way for me to learn how to cope with these feelings, because I know that drinking wine and eating food isn't the answer. It really isn't working for me right now. And so the main thing I did was meditating. And I don't do it every day now. You know, I'd love to say that I do. I don't. I have a real life with 2 kids and a dog and guests knocking on the door all the time. But it's funny, actually, I had an amazing day last week. I think it was Thursday, and I was just on fire. And you know, the website went from strength to strength. I got loads of amazing podcast guests, the kind of guests that I could only dream of. And I went, and my husband came home, and I was like, oh, I've had the best day ever. And then I went, oh, I meditated this morning. And it was just a regular guided meditation for success mindset.
Right.
You know, in one day, it showed again how powerful it can be. Yes. And then when I do that, all the other bits and pieces fall into place. I eat a lot better. You know, I service myself. I honor myself by making really nourishing food that makes me flourish. If I eat a lot during the day, I lose energy. You know, I lose it. Kind of stodges me down almost, and my brain stops working. When if I have things that I know are healthy, juices and salads and things, I can feel this extra layer of clarity in my brain. And then when I've got that clarity, then I've got energy. So then I want to exercise. So then I'll go for a 3 mile power walk. 3 hours would be lovely. 3 mile power walk with the dog. You know, sometimes I quite often go at 6 a.m. because I have to be realistic. And if I don't go then, I just don't fit it in the rest of the day. I say I'll go at 11, and then I say I'll go at 12, and it doesn't happen. So quite often go at 6 a.m. But then I start the day on this kind of boom. I don't know if you know, like Mel Robbins, the 5-second rule.
Yeah, I love Mel.
So that's it. That was a huge thing. You know, I always thought that people who jumped out of bed at 5:30 was hardwired differently from me. You know, and they went, woohoo, I'm waking up, it's amazing. Nobody does. Nobody likes it. But as long as you literally bounce up and get on with it, you know, we do it when we're going on holiday and we have an early flight. We do it, you know, when we need to, and it's not horrendous. It's just, we all have lovely, warm, comfy beds. That's the idea of them. But as soon as you're out, you're on it and you're amazing. So all of the things kind of then, you know, projected onto the next. I had more energy. Therefore, I wanted to do more exercise. Therefore, I had more endorphins. And I kind of treat my exercise as either my learning time So I'll have podcasts. I mean, or audiobooks. The amount of things I have been through on my walks is just, I would never have time to sit down and read them, and I'd love to, but I'm being honest, I just don't. Or I'll use it as a kind of meditation, but also a strategy session. So I'll come back, and it's the same with swimming. If I used to think swimming was boring. That was until I learned it was my best strategy making time ever, because you can't actually do anything else.
So glad you've said that, because I feel the exact same about swimming. Like,
Really?
I used to try and justify why I'd go to the spa so often. So I go to the spa and I go swimming and I spend time in the sauna and the steam room, and I'd be like, I have to go there 3 hours a week minimum, like I have to. And I got through this stage of feeling really guilty about it, like, because obviously I have 2 young kids, and you're right, like if I don't go there, I don't have time to think about the strategies that I need to implement into my business. So that's the time that I spend doing that. I love that.
And when you're in the spa or the pool, you don't have your phone, you don't have anything else, and so I get into this state of creative flow, which is amazing. I've never experienced. Exactly. I come out and I'm like, oh my gosh, brilliant. And it's liberating, isn't it? It's an amazing experience, but until you give yourself permission, like you say, to go there and do that, you don't. And it's the same with swimming. Whenever I go, my husband and I always go together. And it's a pain. We have to get a babysitter, but it's something that we do, and we go together, and it's good for both of us. And every time we're like, grumble, it's a bit raining out there, it's a bit dark, I'd rather curl up on the sofa. And I'm like, so imagine, and then we finish the swim, both of us are on cloud 9, adrenaline, our muscles are pumping, and like, imagine if we let that feeling of, oh, it's a bit rainy, can't really be bothered, take over, then we'd never get to that stage where we are pumped and feeling amazing, and really we've valued ourselves by giving up permission for that to happen.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? And I wanted to address as well, before we move on, about the meditating thing in the morning, because I completely right there with you. So my baby is 1 on the 18th. I can't believe it. In 7
That's gone so quickly.
I know, it's crazy. So before I had her, I had my 2-year-old. Well, she's 3 now, but she was 2 then. So I'd have to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to do my meditating, journaling, reading, learning for 10 minutes. Otherwise, it just wouldn't get done. And then obviously when I had a baby, it was impossible. It was impossible. I wouldn't usually say things are impossible.
No, it has to be real.
Yeah, and then so up until literally like last month, I had one of them in my bed at all times. So I couldn't get up at 5 because I had my baby in my bed, so I couldn't leave her in my bed, but I couldn't move her. So this last couple of weeks, I've been getting up again at 5 in the morning, and the difference, isn't it just incredible?
I was listening, I don't know if you listened to Rob Moore.
A little bit.
He said when I was listening the other day, he said, if you look at entrepreneurs, nearly all of them say they get up early and they start on their most productive hours are between 5 and 10 or 5 and 9 or 6 and 10, whatever variation it might be. And he said, I don't think I agree with that. He said, I know that I'm not always a morning person. And I'm just coming round to the idea that people aren't always morning people, because I'm very much get up early, go and do it. And I meet so many people, and I think I've put blocks in the way for other people, for people that I'm working with. If it is so alien to them to get up at 5 or 6 and start their day, then it doesn't need to be that rigid. There is a time for you when you do it. I mean, after 8 o'clock, I'm kind of, so tired, I can't string a sentence together. There's no point in me trying to write any strategy or training or anything, because that's not when I'm performing, and my brain is functioning in that early morning. So I think it's important to acknowledge that we are all different. And for me and you, it is an early morning.
With the baby, like if something's going on in your life, you can. So I still did the exercises, just not first thing in the morning. Like it might have been in the afternoon, or it might have been after I put the kids to bed.
But that's the other thing. I think when I first started looking into self-development as well, I put quite a lot of pressure on myself, going, right, you need to be able to do this. This person says, if you do this, 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 and this, then you're going to feel amazing. And when I didn't, I was like, oh no, now it's me. I felt even worse about myself because I wasn't responding in the way that they said I should have been. I did some hypnotherapy for kind of a health perspective. So, talking to your inner self about self-worth, and therefore you don't emotionally eat, those kind of things. And it was amazing. And I clearly wasn't in the right place at all. And even during the hypnotherapy, and the therapist, who's amazing, was saying, are you feeling this now? And are you acknowledging the thing that makes you feel this way? And I was like, come on, Faye, quick, make it happen. What, you've got, it's got to be somewhere in your soul that you've released this thing that's happened. And, it wasn't there. And you can't make things like that come unless you're ready, unless it's the right time. And so there's an element as well where you don't need to put pressure on yourself either, because that will just make you end up feeling worse. But everything can be flexible, and you can change your schedule and introduce all the things that are going to make you feel better about yourself, within your time scale and within your limitations, whether it is family or a 9-to-5, or there's so many things that draw on people's lives. So I think it's easy to put people off sometimes by saying, right, if you do this, 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 and this in this regimented, rigid fashion, it's going to make you amazing. It's like, here are the tools and here are the strategies, then you introduce it into your life in the way that it's going to work for you.
Yeah, so true and so important. Okay, so, oh my god, this is so exciting. So you started your networking group then in your local area. How long's that been going for?
2 years. So it was kind of as I came out of the fog, and thankfully, even though I was in the fog, I still managed to massively develop the business here, the bricks and mortar business. So each year our occupancy is higher and higher. The profits are better, because we've done the renovations, the amount that the cottages are bringing in. So that was something I'm really grateful for, that even though I wasn't feeling great, I still managed to get up, get on with it, do the school run, build a business. So yeah, it's about 2 years ago that I got started doing the female business networking group. And like I said, I just met so many amazing people, and I didn't really, I knew I'd been craving it until we were all in one space. I didn't realize how much I'd been craving it. And also, without sounding wrong, I had amazing friends I'd made here. Most of them were via school. They were school mums. And it's really difficult to explain to other mums that you have your own business, and sometimes you are going to have to cancel a play date or change things around or not make an engagement. I mean, I'm not saying I miss children's parties or anything, but I'm not in the same position where at the end of work I'm free. There's always something, especially when I've got a business here that has physical requirements of me, and so I didn't quite feel like I was connecting with exactly the kind of people who would get me. And by having the networking meetings, I realized there were just millions of these gorgeous women on my doorstep. I just hadn't had the means of connecting with them before. And then the ones who I had, met via business, like the people who did our photography here, the people who did our website, they all then came into the networking group as well. And so it became, this really supportive, dynamic group of people. And there's been loads of people, friendships and business, collaborations that have gone on with other women locally who have met at the networking group.
Yeah, it's so important. I did a similar sort of thing. So I realised, I was just sat there on my computer. I was like, our community is growing by thousands and thousands, but I feel like I'm so lonely. What's going on? So yeah, the in-person stuff made a massive difference, and just having that chat with someone who gets it, just completely different.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody bouncing off each other and really, really full of excitement, and leaving, you leave with a spring in your step, don't you? Go, right, I'm going to try this next week.
Yeah, so true. Okay, so what is your best business resource? Like, what is your go-to thing? You've mentioned books, you've mentioned audiobooks, podcasts. What's your
audiobooks? definitely. I listen to 3-4 a month, maybe. Audible do very well out of me, but I would not have. I wouldn't change anything. I'm so pleased that Audible exists. And a lot of my business here still is fairly physical. I work in outside, or I'm working in the buildings. So if I've got my headphones in and I'm listening to Mel Robbins or Lisa Nichols or Rob Moore, or literally my list can go on. And it's like a permanent soundtrack for me now. A permanent soundtrack of people saying, "This, you're amazing, but you need to always remind yourself of that. You have an amazing business and you need to work at it, and this is what you need to do." And it's like that drip, drip, drip all the time. And so the more you listen to it, the more you become it. And in fact, the very first audiobook I've got somebody here, I read was Louise Hay. The very first I read and listened to was You Can Heal Your Life. I'm not quite sure why. And it's interesting because very few of mine are quite so spiritual after that. Most of them are a lot more business mindset. But it opened up my eyes just to an entirely different world. And now I know that my self-talk is kind of quoting her book all the time. And I think that's the difference as well with audiobooks, is that it goes straight into your brain. Yeah. And so it's really started to reset who I am from the inside. So yeah, definitely audiobooks.
Awesome. One last question, then we'll let you go. If you could leave our listeners with anything, what would it be?
Work on yourself, absolutely. So confidence, positivity, and happiness in you are the things that are going to make your life and your business so much more happy and successful. So simple things like waking up and doing 3 positive thoughts for the day and 3 I am grateful fors are an incredible way to start a journey, which means you're going to change your entire outlook and the way that you perceive yourself, but the way that the world perceives you as well.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much, Faye.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Don't forget to always speak your truth and be who you are, because there is someone out there today who needs to hear your message. If you need anything from us at all, head over to thefemaleentrepreneursnetwork.com and check us out. You'll find everything you could possibly need over there. Have an amazing day, and I'll catch you on the next episode.